Hey, what's going on, guys? This is Arvin Saxena, and I'm a lead mentor inside the Inner VIP Platinum program as part of BSF. And today's video, we're going to go ahead and continue the Facebook and Instagram advertising. It's going to be part 2 of our Facebook and Instagram advertising series that we're going to have here. So in our last post, we discussed the importance of the break-even ROAS. And to summarize, we just basically calculated how to go ahead and figure out what your break-even return on ad spend is. That's what ROAS stands for. And that allows us to go ahead and see if the actual campaign is performing well, right? Because if you have your break-even point, then you know when you're profitable and then you know when you're not profitable. So if you haven't already checked out that video, you can go ahead and scroll through this group and check that video out. If you want an easy way to go ahead and find that video, you can click on my name as a part of this post, and you can scroll down to see all the posts that I've had in this group as well, and it'll kind of give you a chronological order of all the posts that I've been making, and it's to be super valuable for you, especially when you're doing the Facebook and Instagram advertising the BSF way. Now in this post, I'm going to expand upon 2 types of metrics, which is super important to understand. And guys, mind you, I'm walking through the basics. So for those who are experts, I totally understand, you're probably wanting to learn more about the actual scaling part. And I promise you that's going to come very, very soon as well. Now I'm trying to really basically build a foundation for individuals, especially who are on the newer side, to understand. And honestly, it will still help you guys, those who are scaling, to really understand kind of the direction of your campaign and how to use these metrics to understand that campaign anyway, right? So 2 types of metrics, which is we consider the primary and secondary metrics. And I'll tell you why I call them primary and secondary, right? So the primary metrics are return on ad spend, view content, add to cart, and purchase events, right? So return on ad spend, which is ROAS, is essentially how much are you returning based on how much you've spent on that specific ad set or that specific audience in a campaign. Or you can look at a ROAS of the overall campaign. Now, view content, add to cart, and purchase events are very, very important, especially because in our strategies, we look at them very, very carefully when the ad sets, when you initially launch a campaign for a specific product, right, guys? So the view content essentially means that the customer has gone ahead and clicked on your ad and viewed your landing page, right? So essentially, your pixel, which is the brain of your actual store, is able to record all the customer behavior. Therefore, view content, add to cart, and purchase events are things that the store and the pixel are able to go ahead and record and redirect it to Facebook so you can see it on the Ads Manager dashboard, right? So the return on ad spend is ROAS, VC is view content, and then you see add to cart is add to cart, ATC is add to cart, and purchase is PUR, right? And essentially what you're doing is when you're running your ads, you're gonna look at the view content to see if you have any view content. That essentially means that, hey, your specific audience has generated for that product that you're selling a landing page view, which essentially means your customer has simply gone ahead and clicked the ad and they moved on to your landing page and they viewed your landing page. That's the customer behavior. Now, let's say if that same customer went ahead and clicked add to cart, right? Essentially, whether you have an add to cart button or a buy it now button, leading them to the cart page. Once they're loaded on the cart page successfully, the add to cart pixel, basically the pixel is able to determine the add to cart metric. And the purchase metric is essentially when they check out, right, and they're able to go ahead and actually purchase the product, and they're on the thank you page. This is what classifies as the actual purchase event, right? And the secondary metrics are CPM, CTR, and CPC. Now, for those who've never heard of that before, I could totally understand how that might be a little weird to understand, initially, right? All these different actual terminologies, but I'm going to break it down for you guys, and this is why I love having these foundational videos as well, because it's super important before you go ahead and build a very, very tall skyscraper, that the foundation is set correctly, therefore it never topples over, right? So CPMs is cost per 1,000 impressions, right? It's basically the cost to display our ad 1,000 times. That's essentially what it's saying. So basically it's a charge that Facebook gives you, it charges you to run their ads. And the way they look at it is if they give 1,000 impressions on your ad, based on the certain metrics of what product you're testing, what audience you're actually testing it in, how many competitors are in that audience, you get and also how your ads are interacting with the audience, you get a metric called CPMs, and essentially it's your cost, right? And CTR is your click-through rate, percentage of people who've clicked on your ads, right? So essentially, let's say 100 people have viewed your ad, right? And actually reached to 100 people, right? And out of 100 people, 5 people have clicked on your ad. That's called CTR. And that click-through rate would be 5 divided by 100 times 100 to make the percentage, which is 5%. And CPC is the cost per cost to acquire the click above, right? So basically cost per click. CPC stands for cost per click, CTR stands for click-through rate, and CPM stands for cost per 1,000 impressions, right? That's essentially what it is. It's just short term to do that, right? So why are these important, right? And it's super important to understand that these allow us to understand the quality and performance of our ads, right, guys? So both primary and secondary metrics are very, very important, and the primary being obviously the most important, right? What's your return, right? Are there people actually going ahead and viewing your landing page? Are people actually adding their cart? Are people actually purchasing your product? That's very important, therefore we call it primary. But secondary is also important because it allows us to gauge, how much is the cost? What is the actual metrics of people clicking on the ad? What is the actual cost to click, right? So these are also very, very important to understand which kind of ad creatives work better as well. So the primary metrics allows us to gauge the overall campaign performance in terms of numbers of sales and profitability. Numbers of sales because, primary metrics purchase the event tells you how many sales you're getting for that specific audience for the product that you're running, and the performance of your ads as well, because not only are you getting these number of sales with the purchase metrics, but you're also getting the profitability from the return on ad spend, as we were talking about right here, the return on ad spend, right? So that's the profitability and sales, right? And the secondary the secondary number allows us secondary metrics allow us to gauge how well our ads are resonating with the target audience, right? So based on the current CPMs, based on the CTRs, and based on the CPCs, you want to see if your ads actually performing well and people are actually loving your ads, right? And that's why it's super important to understand that. Now keep that in mind because not only the primary metrics are important because you can get a lot of sales and you can have horrible CPMs, and you can have higher CPMs, very high CPMs, you can have very low CTRs, you can have very high CPCs, but you're getting sales, right? You're very profitable because maybe your margin's very, very high. So yes, your primary metrics are good, but in your secondary metrics, maybe there's some improvement you can make. And that's why it's super important to understand the difference between primary and secondary metrics, right? What I'm going to go ahead and do is I'm going to scroll down to show you guys a little further as well. So you're able to see my screen, right? So let's go ahead and back into viewing mode. And then we're going to continue to talk about the ideal metrics, right? So the secondary metrics, like I said, allows us to gauge how well our ads are resonating with the audience, and the primary metrics allows us to understand the overall performance of the numbers of sales and profitability. So what are the ideal numbers for these metrics? You guys must be wondering, right? So the ideal metrics based on our years of running ads and millions of dollars in ad spend and research, right? The ideal metrics for the secondary metrics would be CPM should be in $20 to $30 range, right? $20 to $30 range, it's, hey, you have a pretty healthy audience, right? As you guys know, Facebook is an auction platform, so all these actual marketers are auctioning for keywords, right? The higher bidder always will get like the lower CPMs and the most people shown to that actual ad, while the lower individuals in terms of just the budget and the ad quality will have a much higher CPM, right? So our range would be to be around $20 to $30. Now, of course, as you see Q4 approaching, it's completely normal to have much higher than the average range here of 20 to 30. But keep in mind that is kind of the range we're looking at. CTR should be 1.4% or more, and that means your ads are pretty healthy. You're also going to notice if your CPMs are higher, let's say it's $30 or $40 or $50, you're going to reach less people, right? Because the cost is a lot. And if you're reaching less people, that means if a couple of people have clicked on your ad, of that couple of people, your CTRs are going to be much higher because it's less people who viewed it overall. So the fraction becomes a smaller denominator and a higher numerator. Therefore, you have a very, very high CTR. And CPCs, they're still going to be costly because your CPMs are expensive. Now, if your CPMs are very, very low, you're going to also know the more clicks you get, the CPCs are going to be much lower, and the ideal target for the CPCs is less than 60%. So regarding our primary metrics, there's no ideal for every product, right? It's going to be different because it really depends on the cost of goods sold and the sell price of the product, right? So you might have a product that is, have a break-even ROAS of 1.5, and then you might have a product that has a break-even ROAS of 2, right? But you can't really tell which one's doing better than the other, but based on just the break-even ROAS. You have to see the performance, and the primary metrics therefore cannot be set as an ideal range because you have two different baselines, right? You have one break-even ROAS here and one break-even ROAS here, and therefore it's very important for you to understand that both these metrics are very, very important, both primary and secondary. Yeah, as a reminder, guys, if our ROAS is greater than the break-even ROAS of our product for a particular ad set, we can consider that ad set profitable, right? So if your break-even ROAS is 1.5 and you are getting a higher break-even ROAS, higher ROAS or return on ad spend, therefore, let's say 1.6, 2, 2.5, 3, that means your 2 or 3 is greater than 1.5, therefore you're actually profitable. So just to sum it up a little bit, break-even ROAS is super important to understand, and also it's very, very important to understand primary metrics and secondary metrics. Primary metrics, return on ad spend, VC, add to cart, purchase events, right, tells you kind of the whole overall sentiment of the customer behavior on your actual landing pages and your store. And secondary metrics tells you how your ad specifically is interacting with the specific audience that you've chosen to run ads towards. And we have CPM, CTRs, and CPCs, and both of these metrics are super important. And remember, the ideal range of CPMs is $20 to $30, CTRs 1.4% or more, and CPCs is less than 60 cents, guys. So that's all for today. This is going to be the second part of the Facebook and Instagram advertising the BSF way, and stay tuned for more of these posts coming shortly as well in this group. And as we continue to go, you're going to see it's going to get much more advanced. But if you guys continue to go ahead and watch these videos, absorb the content, you're going to be able to understand later down on the line how the scaling works of the Facebook and Instagram advertising much easier because you now have understood the foundation. That's all for me, guys. Thank you so much.